No matter which way you fold it, both Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal are coming into this fight dealing with some abnormal and complex emotions. Although Masvidal came into this fight week kind of downplaying the rivalry at the press conference and talking about how it isn't personal, I believe that the most intense things they're going through internally is what they're trying to conceal the most. Even if a lot of what's been going on and what was said in the media between these two isn't as it appears. We've seen friends fight in the octagon many times over the years. Sometimes it's two guys who lived in the same house together as recently as the very last fight, like back when Travis Brown and Andrei Arlovski fought each other just months removed from being roommates and friends. Other times it could be two people who were friends but turned foes, back like when Rashad Evans and John Jones fought all those years ago. There have been a lot of occasions of friends in all types of situations having to fight over the years. And if there's one thing that those fights have shown us, is that some guys deal with this type of situation better than others. Some people are able to completely put it all aside and go out there and go for the kill the same they would against anybody else. And others are severely impacted by the fact that they're fighting their friend, and the emotions impede their performance for the worst. ATT owner Dan Lambert told Ariel Helwani this week that he thinks taking that type of emotion into this fight is beneficial for Masvidal. He went on to say that it's the fights that he went into them with emotion that made him his most aggressive and brought him his most success. I'm not a psychologist, but I do feel like that the Colby we're seeing this week is acting slightly different than he usually does. I'm not saying it means one thing or the other, it's just that my intuition is telling me that there's something different this time around. Maybe if whatever I'm sensing is there, it's to his advantage and it's going to give us the best Covington yet. Or maybe it doesn't. I understand that the fans love the media hype and the press conferences of the fighters yelling over each other for the sound bites, but there's going to be no moment as interesting as when all the talking is done and both guys are making their walk to the octagon. It's going to be a very telling moment for both men to see their body language as they make the walk, and waiting for what I would imagine feels like a painstakingly long time for Buffer to call their names and for the ref to finally get out of the way. We are going to get two totally different demeanors than we've been seeing in the build-up to this fight, and that's an added element of intrigue to an already extremely interesting fight when you consider how much talent is in that octagon. As far as the fight itself goes, I do have a hard time imagining it going any other way than Covington getting his hand raised. See, the tragic thing about Covington is that his persona totally overshadows the fact that he's one of the greatest welterweights on the face of the planet right now. He will never get the credit he deserves for his skills as a fighter, at least not anytime soon. I believe history will be kind to him. I mean, Chael Sonnen is one of the most beloved figures in our sport, and there was a time in his career where there was no bigger villain. But as far as the competition goes, the odds are heavily favoring Covington right now, and it's hard to argue with that logic. It's not that Masvidal isn't an elite talent and a world-class performer. It's just that the guy's focus and discipline pales in comparison to the way Covington goes about things. This has been the story with Masvidal since the very early on in his career during his Strikeforce days. Many years before the fame and the money came into play. Now the guy has a whole lot of money, a whole lot of fame, and all indications are that he's enjoying it. And so he should. The guy's been in the sport since 2003. Can you imagine? Close to 20 years in this game across 50 professional fights. Just a remarkable career. There's no way humanly possible for him to have the same desire and motivation to train and compete that he did on the come-up. So I'm certainly not criticizing the guy for it. He's earned this life. But the problem is that in this world, it eventually starts catching up with you. Especially when you're taking fights against the absolute best the division has to offer, at the top of their games, at the peak of their careers, with enough motivation to move mountains. Such will be the case when he takes on Colby Covington, who, although is coming off of a loss, is performing the best he ever has in his entire career right now. However this thing unfolds Saturday night, it's going to make for a compelling conflict. Because whether or not the beef between these two is totally authentic, totally fabricated, or a mix between the two, the tension is palatable. And that tension will be felt by everybody in attendance and everybody sitting at home as these two make their entrance to the octagon and solve this thing once and for all.